What's up, everybody, and welcome back to our Three Things post-game podcast brought to you by TarHeelIllustrated.com. Of course, if you are watching our fast-growing YouTube channel, it's Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me from the Smith Center in Chapel Hill, it's our very own publisher, Andrew Jones, from the concourse of the Smith Center in Chapel Hill is what I should have said. A little bit different of a backdrop for you today, AJ, but
they're
you made it
breaking
work.
All down because they got an early practice on fly to Tallahassee. So there'll be people going around here in the concourse. They're breaking the stands up, which usually kills us when we're trying to do it.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will be able to hear that too. Get this thing done.
Well, I can hear you fine right now, so long may that continue.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and dive into it before our luck runs out. AJ, Carolina getting the win over UVA 71-63. Heels improving to 18-11, 10-8 in conference play. Let's start with Pete Nance, because I tweeted it out about 8 minutes left in the game. It was the Pete Nance show tonight, AJ, and there's no doubt about it. Really, really dangerous offensively. 22 points, 4 blocks, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Shot 7 of 10 from the floor, 4 from 3. AJ, he was just the real deal, and I thought even more impressively, I thought his offensive game was great, and you love to see that. And Carolina's I think they go up a step in a lot of ways when he offers what he offered tonight offensively, but defensively too, man. I mean, how many big blocks did he have around the basket? And you finally saw him play with a little bit of emotion today as well, which we haven't seen a ton over the last couple of weeks just because he struggled so much. So major credit to Pete Nance, because I think it's the best game we've seen him in at Tar Heel. He was fantastic.
What's interesting is he didn't get his last rebound until the last minute of the game. His first rebound until the last minute of the game.
Yeah, no, weird stat line.
So he was doing all that stuff, and you're like, wait a minute. RJ's got 10 rebounds. Pete has none. So for the people who want to pick at Pete, I guess they gave him something. He was really good. He was decisive. Some of his moves, backing in, he didn't force bad shots. He got rid of the ball a little quicker. And I'll tell you what, we noticed this the other night too in South Bend. He scored 9 of their first 11 in that game. If he doesn't hit those shots early, they get blown out.
Yeah.
They get blown out the other night. But he hits those shots and they stayed afloat. And they were in position to make that push in the second half. And he was a big reason why. He only scored 1 more basket the rest of the way, but he did what he had to do then to keep them afloat. Tonight, he scored a lot of points quick, and I'm thinking, okay, he's got 11 of their first 18 or 21 or whatever it was. And I'm thinking, okay, does he keep it going? He did. The heels went to him. And I think one of the reasons he had a lot of success tonight was because a lot of his stuff came in regular flow. Offensively, the Tar Heels were much better. They moved without the ball so much better than they have lately. And when guys got it, they didn't just pound the damn thing on the ground, on the floor, and make themselves as individuals and collectively as a group easier to guard. Hubert spoke after the game about their awareness, about how they were sharing the ball. They were getting rid of it. He told them, you got a half second. You got to make a move drive. You got to shoot, or you got to get rid of the ball to a teammate. And that led to a lot of Pete's shots. A lot of them were uncontested, and he hit those threes. It may have been on a line tonight, but it was falling through the cylinder, and that's all that matters. A 500-foot home run and a pop-up that just tucks itself inside the foul pole, they're home runs. Yeah. They're home runs, man. They count for the same thing. And Pete's line drive perimeter shot was falling tonight. He was 4 for 4. This was, I think, a career high number, or he tied his career high in number of made threes in a game. And I think it infused the rest of the team. I mean, they were pretty juiced to begin with.
Yeah.
They were locked in and they were loose, which is the perfect combination. I talked after the game the other night about how I thought there was a sense of relief with the players afterward. And I asked Hubert at the press conference yesterday about that. And he said, absolutely, he had sensed it. And the translation was they were loose coming into this game where they very easily could have been tight, especially when suddenly they stopped converting. UVA went on a little bit of a push early in the second half. A team that's not fully loose is going to sort of tighten in that situation. The Tar Heels didn't. They locked down defensively because they were locked in, and they had a phenomenal stretch there against UVA. And I think Pete Nance hitting that stuff early took a lot of weight off other things because Armando wasn't getting shots. Caleb wasn't getting shots. He wasn't making them when he was. They weren't getting in transition. But I'll tell you, Pete Nance was getting shots in the half court. He was making them, had 14 points at the half, and I think that was as instrumental as them winning this game as anything else. And by the way, I know it's getting kind of loud in here. By the way, he's aware of the stuff that we've been saying about him. He even said, and I'll paraphrase, I'm going to write a story about this. Look, I'm the new guy, and he knows who he's replacing. and I'm the one trying to fit in, and the team has the weight of their shoulders because of all the championship or bust and Johnson and all that stuff. He wasn't a part of last year, but he came with a different set of pressure, and that was a weight that was really growing over him, and it was difficult for him to deal with. So he's aware of what's been said, but he also said he has learned as a 23-year-old, 23-year-old, to not get too high when things are great, like tonight when people are chanting his name when he went off the court, but not get low like the stretch he had here for a few weeks. So his maturity is why he was able to be in this position Wednesday night when he kept them afloat in the first half, and tonight when he led them to a victory.
Yeah, he was huge tonight. Like you said, credit to him because he hasn't played well in recent weeks, and he's taken a lot of abuse from it in a lot of ways from on Twitter from Carolina.
Abuse is a great term. Yeah. And apparently Hubert went off on his radio show about it, we were told, and he was asked about it after the game. He didn't really want to go there, but I think abuse. I think it crossed the line to abuse, and it's unfortunate that people treated that. The kid came here, was doing his best. It's unfortunate people treat him that way. We can criticize the way guys are playing, but it shouldn't become personal, and has become too personal for a highly entitled fan base that expected him to be something that maybe he's not. Too many people thought he'd be Brady Manick, and you and I were doing podcasts, and David and I were doing podcasts in summer saying, guys, he is nothing like Brady. He's a totally different player. So a lot of people put unfair tags on him that he's not living up to, and maybe they were the ones who were wrong in putting those tags on.
Yeah, well, I think just to stay on that for a second, I think the most appropriate way to describe him, I think he's been the scapegoat this year. A lot of ways, it's been like, just get Pete Nance out of the lineup. That'll fix all of Carolina's issues. And
Hubert's the most recent scapegoat. Yeah. Caleb went through his period where he got all the arrows. Then Pete got the arrows. Yeah. And now Hubert it's been a landmine, been a minefield for him for a while now. So maybe everyone will back off because they got their quad one win in tonight. And by the way, Carolina fans need to hope UVA wins its next two games. So it stays a quad one game.
Yeah, no doubt.
And this wacky ACC, who knows what the heck's going to happen here?
Yeah, they need Duke to keep winning as well. They were beating Virginia Tech last time I checked, but I don't know what the score of that game is right now. But we'll keep it moving, AJ. Let's talk about the defensive kind of stretch for the Tar Heels in the second half, because I thought Carolina was really good defensively at times. There's two guys that kind of stood out, especially, and I think it was Caleb Love for me, and it was Pete Nance. I thought they were absolutely fantastic defensively. And I know Hubert's kind of talked about the fact that Caleb can be an elite level defender, and we haven't really seen a lot of it in glimpses, maybe every once in a while. But the job he did in the second half tonight on specific possessions too against Beekman was fantastic. I mean, Beekman's a tough guy to guard, a tough guy to stay in front of, and Caleb Love kind of played, and I think in a lot of ways too, AJ, it was a kind of a microcosm of how the old team played. It just seemed like Carolina had a little bit different of an energy and a little bit different of an attitude throughout the whole game tonight. And I thought we saw that in spurts in the second half in South Bend as well, which is why they were able to win that game. So I think that is a positive. They were able to carry that over. But again, I thought the second half defensive displays from Caleb and Pete specifically were huge for the Tar Heels.
They were loose and they were locked in, and Caleb could have allowed his errant shooting to get him down, but it didn't. He had a possession early in that defensive stretch, but I'm going to allude to the numbers here in a second, where nobody has defended Beekman better than he did on that position. And I asked him about that afterward. He recalled the possession and said, just doing his thing, basically. Roy used to say, look, he could be an elite defender. It's just about being loose mentally and also being locked in mentally. I think that's the key. And today was sort of one of the only times this season where this team has been right. And we saw it with Caleb putting on that kind of defensive performance when he made 2 field goals today. It was 2 for 12. And it didn't he had some body language after some misses, but he went down on the other end, picked up his man, and played D. That stretch that you're talking about defensively, Virginia came out strong to start the second half, and then Carolina put the clamps on. The Wahoos missed 12 straight shots, 15 out of 16. Now, offensively, Carolina was unable to really extend the lead a whole lot during that period. They were missing shots too. It was a missed opportunity to pull away and blow them out. But they still, when the shots weren't falling, they were still clamping down. Pete told me after the game in South Bend that when the shots don't fall, it's very difficult for these guys to check the other boxes, because they're so used to bad things happening, shots don't fall. And Hubert kind of picked up on that a little bit yesterday in his press conference. So today, Carolina went through a stretch with 4-15 or something like that, but they were locking down on the other end. It wasn't just Virginia missing shots. Those shots were contested. Pete had a couple of blocks. Leakey had a block, I think, in that stretch.
Yeah, big block
and,
at the end of the game, too.
Caleb's, his textbook defense on Beekman during that stretch. The one score I think Beekman had, he got lost. And it was, I think, it's secondary transition, too. So Caleb may have taken the shot and wasn't in position yet to defend, and Beekman was able to get to the rim. But that was outstanding. If you're a North Carolina fan, Pete Nance is hitting threes, the team's hitting threes, and they locked down on a stretch as impressive as any they've had defensively all year, and they did it on February 25th. They did it amidst the weight that this team has been carrying. And I thought that was really, really impressive. Those two things, Pete and the defense in the second half especially, man, those are the kind of things that when you get that injection at this time of year, especially with the way this league looks, suddenly it gives you a little bit of optimism that maybe wasn't there a couple of days ago.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought Carolina played really well today. I think we saw the high end of Carolina. That's kind of the thing we'll talk about last is what this means, like we always do. Obviously, Florida State coming up on Monday night and then Duke on Saturday, final regular season game of the year. So, a couple opportunities to get some wins for the Tar Heels ahead of the ACC tournament, which I believe starts on March 7th. So not a lot of time left, but I think today, AJ, we saw the high end of what North Carolina could be. And we also saw, like you mentioned, some added elements kind of put in there as well. You got a guy like Armando Bacot who, 11 points, 6 rebounds, didn't even play a large majority of that second half stretch when it really mattered because of foul trouble. And you still had Carolina finding a way to win. And at the end of the day, pretty much winning comfortably against the Cavaliers. So I think that's a big positive to take away from today. Again, though, AJ, we've had similar conversations like this. I tweeted out during the game that this game reminded me of the Clemson game a couple weeks ago. It really did, because it was a game in which Carolina came out, handled their opponent, kind of made it look easy, and that feel-good factor was kind of back within the team after. And the question mark now is, can they carry it over into these final 2 regular season games? And even further than that, because, again, the season ends very soon in terms of the regular season. So big positives to take away tonight. But, again, does it really matter if Carolina goes down to Tallahassee and loses? Well, not really at this point in the season.
Well, it mattered today because they got a win that they desperately needed. I agree there's a little bit of similarity to Clemson. The difference is they played a much better
opponent.
I think they're better. Well, I mean, Clemson,
yeah. Yeah, you got to win by
been amazing this week.
Probably,
I mean, who saw that? Nobody saw that coming.
No.
But Virginia is an opponent that has caused all kinds of nightmares for Carolina. And Carolina was able to do it against them. And like you said, Armando has played 25 minutes this season against Virginia.
I know.
Played 24 minutes today, played 1 in Charlottesville. Pete didn't play in Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm.
Pete at the high post. And the way that they were able to have success against those hard hedges by Virginia's defense, which has given them a lot of trouble before, but they were able to do it because Pete, and it's funny, Pete was talking about that afterward, and he went back to his Northwestern days. We watched a lot of film of him at Northwestern, and so much of the damage he did was after the ball screens at the top of the key, and really from wing to wing or elbow to elbow. He would have a lot of success with those ball screens, got a lot of pick and pops, and also had a lot of assists from there, and that's where a lot of damage was done today. It came off that. Some of his shots were on the wing, but a lot of that originated from effectively handling the hard hedges by Virginia, which was something that Hubert discussed afterward as well. And we saw success with Pete at the top against Notre Dame as well in the second half. So maybe we're seeing Carolina actually change a little bit offensively, better utilizing having 2 5s on the court and some of the strengths that Pete has. So what does this mean? It means they won a game where there were a lot of statistical anomalies. Many weren't in their favor. So whoever would have thought that North Carolina would win a game with no points off of turnovers, no fast break points, 3 offensive rebounds. Armando had 6 shot attempts. Caleb had 2 field goals. And Pete didn't got his only rebound in the last minute of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought that North Carolina would win a game like that? But they did, because they were locked in, and they would lose. They would lose by not allowing negative stuff to get to them, which has happened when they would carry that weight that Hubert talked about yesterday, would carry it into the floor, and something negative would happen, and suddenly would be an albatross.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen today. They were able just to work through all that stuff, and they won a game when all those things happened. They weren't Carolina, statistically, it wasn't a North Carolina type game, but they still got a win over a really good team that always has success taking you away from what you normally do. Carolina still beat them, and I thought they beat them fairly convincingly, even though the final margin, I think, was 8. I thought Carolina was a 12 to 15 point better team than Virginia was today. And I think that that's huge because if they take a lot of that to Tallahassee, they have a good chance to win in Tallahassee. But that's the question for this team. The quick turnaround, teams playing Saturday and then on the road Monday night in the ACC, they don't do very well. Carolina had one of these a few weeks ago, did not play well enough, didn't close against Miami and lost. Miami was the team that played at home and had to travel, and they did pretty well. Monday is going to be tough because Florida State could still be a pretty good team at times. They overcame a huge deficit and beat Miami on the road today. They're going to be really, really confident. And they also would love the idea of beating Carolina and knocking them out of the tournament. Because if they lose to Florida State, even if they beat Duke, it's hard to imagine them getting an NCAA bid unless they get to the finals of the ACC tournament because the league is not respected. So what this means is they showed that they can swell up. They could do the grit stuff. They could do the mental toughness stuff. They could do the cohesion stuff. They could do some of the finesse stuff. They could shoot well from the field, but also bring a lunch pail out there and get a lot of other stuff done as well. And they needed to because they're guys who usually check a lot of boxes for them when they play well and win. Weren't really checking those boxes today. And that's the difference between this one and Clemson. Clemson, those guys were all checking boxes and they went off. This one, they had to go down different avenues to secure a very solid win. And they did it as if they've been doing it all year long. So this is a very, very positive performance. Coming off 44 points in the second half at South Bend and winning that game, outscoring them 12-7 the last 5.5 minutes, and then doing what they did here today. Now the test is, can you take it to Tallahassee? If they can take this to Tallahassee and do something there, then we can start talking about, okay, well, they kind of made similar jumps in late February a year ago. They had that overtime game against Syracuse on a Monday night before traveling to Duke, and they found ways to win, and Caleb got hot, and Leaky shutting down Buddy Boeheim and stuff like that. Well, are we seeing a little bit of that? Does today represent a little bit of that? The only way we can answer that question is Monday, and then they got 5 days to get ready for a game that's a different season unto itself. So Carolina fans, I don't think could be any happier over a performance than what we saw today.
Yeah, enjoy it too, because it's been a roller coaster this year for Carolina fans.
Because it hadn't happened very often. The running joke in the press room was, they're going to shoot 28% in Tallahassee and lose by 9.
Hey man,
so we'll see. I mean, but the reason it's a funny joke, comedy is funny when there's a hint of truth.
There's a hint of truth to it. Yeah.
That's what we've seen all year long. So are they that club? Are they going to go against the grain and show us that maybe there's something different now? The relief that Hubert agreed to my question Friday about Wednesday night, I think that's important. I think it's really important because as stressed as this group has been, to have some relief in late February when they are the talk of the nation about how they don't belong, and they're the most disappointing preseason number one team ever. Relief, positivity, being loose can amount to so much, and we saw that today.
Yeah. We'll see what happens on Monday night, right? That's the only thing you could do, like we said. So AJ will be down there in Tallahassee, and big week coming up for the Tar Heels to wrap up the regular season, but securing a big win nonetheless against Virginia today. 6th-ranked Virginia, I should say, 71-63. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another episode of our Three Things post-game podcast. We appreciate y'all watching as always. Make sure you keep it locked to TarIllustrated.com for all your post-game coverage from tonight's victory. Just click the link below and it'll take you right on over there. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. We'll see you all in the next one. Thanks.